I think he's taking a nap. Either that or he's connecting with his bookie, maybe.
I'm at that age where I take my glasses off to read.
Did you make a good bet?
Did I do what?
Make a good bet?
Yes. No.
Can we share?
Yeah, sure. So good evening, members of the Design Advisory Board. Sean Hopkins on behalf of the applicant. Also with me on behalf of the project team is Tom Fox from Ellicott Development, Brian Slevar, the project architect from Carmina Wood Design, and Pat Sheedy, the project engineer from Carmina Wood Design. As you recall, we presented this under the new format on a preliminary basis during your meeting on December 13th. We're now back in front of you, and we're going to focus tonight mainly on an update. So if we want to walk through the slides, and if we can go all the way, James, we can go all the way to my slides, yeah. So I think we all know the project site at this point in time, 5226, 5228 Main Street, 1.1 acres. Not a ton of frontage on Main Street, fairly deep. And then directly behind us, of course, is the Tops Plaza at 5262 Main Street. This site was Zone GB until relatively recently. On September 5th of last year, the town board rezoned it from GB, it says GI, to TI4. Some of the benefits of that were, obviously, that triggers this committee getting involved. And number two, triggers some more higher quality standards that apply to this project. Next slide. So what we're proposing is identical to what we were proposing last time, subject to a couple minor changes. 10,930 square feet of first floor commercial space, 30 upper floor apartments in the 4-story building, 65 parking spaces. I believe we're at 66 previously. We're showing an emergency access easement to North Forest Road. We did receive a memorandum from the Fire Chiefs Association that we needed on January 24th, approving the site plan. The biggest development in terms of this project since we were last here is you can see we're showing that driveway connection to the Tops Plaza directly behind us. That's owned by Benchmark, a local development company. Unfortunately, a couple of weeks ago, Benchmark reached out and said they're not interested in that cross access for vehicles. We think it's a great idea. I believe it was the planning department's idea originally. But they are willing to provide a sidewalk connection. So we will be showing a sidewalk connection. And we've suggested to the planning department that it would be acceptable for them to impose a condition requiring for that connection to go in if and when the Benchmark site, the Tops Plaza, has any redevelopment. That way, at some point in the future, they're going to come in front of the town, ask for some type of discretionary approval, and at that point, the town could require that connection. So we're okay with that. Next slide. In terms of process, all that's occurred since we were here on December 13th is we did receive several area variances that were needed from the Zoning Board of Appeals. We did submit the design review application on December 22nd. We made a comprehensive updated project submission on January 5th, and the Planning Board held a public hearing on January 18th. It closed the public hearing and tabled its issuance of a decision for two reasons. Number one, we didn't have that updated review from the Fire Chiefs Association that we now have. And secondly, obviously, this request for design advisory recommendation was still pending in front of this committee. Next slide. Here's the updated landscape plan. We just most recently updated the landscape plan a couple days ago in direct response to a comment letter we received, and I believe we now comply with all aspects in terms of the types of plantings, the location of the plantings. Pat, I think if you want to explain what we did most recently in terms of changing the landscaping.
The biggest change was just the suggestions from this board here to remove the small ornamental trees from the site and swap those with all large deciduous shade trees.
Thank you. Next slide. Elevation plans. So you did provide some comments relative to the elevations, and I'm going to actually turn over to Tom and Brian. They do have the building materials that we presented when we were here in December. And I do want to note one important aspect of the project as well. As you recall, when we were here on December 13th, we were showing a large 5226 projecting sign on the front of the building. When we presented this to the Zoning Board of Appeals, they imposed a condition. They just didn't like that, even though it didn't require a variance. So we did remove that. We'll work out signage, but that projection sign that we were previously showing will not be proposed. So we'll have more traditional building signage. And then you had some other comments relative to the materials and aspects and the functionality. So I'm going to let Tom address those very briefly. Tom?
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. Tom Fox, Ellicott Development. I wasn't able to attend that last meeting mid-December with you all for this project. But I did get with the team here and understand what the remarks were, and I just want to go through those again, as Sean mentioned. So I don't think it was mentioned in Sean's remarks with the site plan, but one of the things was about introducing an entrance location for the residential from the Main Street side of the building, and that has been addressed through this entrance created, and we can see that in the site plan view as well, along the west elevation of the building. We've got a pathway now that comes from the front southwest corner of the building along the side to that entrance location along the west elevation. Excuse me. With the removal of that vertical blade-style sign that was in this location here, that was a condition of the zoning board approval, the removal of that sign. There was a discussion about the projection of these two black materials here, what happens along that joint, where in the previous presentation that was a flush joint. What we've done now, and it's a bit hard to see in this elevation, I think maybe in the next slide we might be able to see it a bit better. Right in here, it's again tough to see, but we've added a step there, a few inches, to create a shadow line, to present a corner there where this horizontal material comes around and defines that change in materials here from a brick style material from this horizontal, more smooth finish material. One of the other comments that came up previously was at the base of the building on this north or southwest corner rather, and wrapping along the east side with this smooth black material. Previously was shown as a larger panel type product, and now we're showing it with with some joinery. The panel sizes now, I think Brian mentioned, they're 12 by 16. So we're showing those horizontal joints down, that definition, adding some nice fenestration there along that ground floor level with that smooth black product. And again, I passed up the materials there. I don't know where they're circulating, but that is the smooth black material, the darker black material, which is on top there closer to me. That would be along the base of the building with the brick material that's above the second floor through fourth floor. There was a question again about the brick material, and I think there was a discussion about maybe looking at another property of ours that we completed years ago, Resurgence Brewing. I don't know if that's been done. I did bring photographs of that. If I could hand those out if interested. This was an application of the same product, different brick coloring, but I'll hand these out.
I could actually probably, Tom, put it up if you hand one back to them. I don't know if you can put it on the projection thing.
With that product I've handed photos out on, we had 130-year-old building in the photo on the right there, or on my right, that we were actually, I think, became pretty lucky with a very close match with the Nichia product in that project. And we find that it worked really well. In this case as well, we had that product up above the first floor, the brick product, where we used at the base a combination of materials, but more smooth, more limestone style Nichia products at the base. But allowed us to use one system from ground floor up, which was nice and efficient. We feel the look has been very successful there. So any questions about that, happy to answer. Then there are just a couple other minor notes that I received from the group. One about the windows and just confirming that all the residential windows here will be operable. I think that was a question that came up in the last meeting. And then also that there has been a green space provided, and we can see that in the site plan, the previous slide, green space provided at the roof level right here in the back, adjacent to the vertical circulation. Our elevator's back here. You come up, you'll be able to get off. You'll be able to exit here to get access to the roof level to provide some not fully public space, but for the tenants in the building, some private outdoor space that they can enjoy. And we'll have a number of amenities up there for the tenants to use. I think that completes any comments that were received. If there are any additional, I'm happy to address those. But again, we've found that these elevations have been well received for those that we've showed, and again, with a product that we've had success with, that we've found to be very, have a great look in the end when we use it, and be something that really maintains well for us where we've used it at other properties in the past. And we got several projects as well around the city of Buffalo and other locations where we're planning additional use of that product as well, the Nichia cement panel siding. Thank you.
You want to go to the next slide? We have a couple more. Is that it? Yeah, there we go. So I mentioned that most recently we made a submission on January 23rd that applies to this board's review as well as the planning board. And again, I'm going to have Pat come up for a second. But one of the things we were asked for is to add some conceptual seating on the landscape plan for the seasonal patio. So we did provide that. We think that'll be a nice outdoor amenity space right along Main Street. You get to see the vibrancy, the activity. We talked about the changes in terms of the landscaping, replacing smaller canopy trees with larger deciduous trees. We did do that. Then we also talked about the fact that based on the input received from Benchmark, ultimately we will provide a vehicular connection subject to Benchmark's approval to the Tops Plaza. I think people that live here will actually walk to Tops rather than drive. It's so close by. And then secondly, in the future, if Benchmark proposes something, the town would have the ability to impose a condition requiring that driveway connection to be installed, which again, I believe we all think is a great idea. So we think we've made a lot of progress since we were here during your meeting on December 13th. We're asking you respectfully to finalize your review of the design advisory application. That will put us in a position the planning board could consider approving the site plan during its meeting on the third Thursday in February. If there's any questions of myself or the members of the project team, of course, we would welcome the opportunity to address them.
Tracy, questions, comments?
Tom, just to clarify, so this bottom band is also... Oh, sorry. Is this bottom band that fiber cement product?
It's all Nichia. We got 3 different types going on here.
Tom, say it a little louder so they pick it up for the minutes.
So there's a limestone product that they have a sample that they have at the base,
Okay.
and at the headers here, these openings. There's a darker charcoal color material that happens in the recess, and then the brick does come down the columns here to the top of it.
Okay, but it's all the fiber cement type material at that lower level. Okay, thank you. Just go into all my comments?
Yeah.
Okay. Another, just clarification, so if that entry exit into the Tops Plaza is taken away, are we adding more parking there? And then are we, I guess, can they use the emergency vehicle exit, or is this truly going to be a one-way in, one-way out?
Yeah, can we go back to the site plan quick? There we go. So the access to North Forest is a gated emergency access only. They weren't going to let us have full access. So that will literally be only in the event it's needed by emergency personnel. I assume where that driveway connection is shown now, again, we'll abide by a condition that we'll install that if Benchmark is required in the future. We'd probably fill that in, Pat, with a couple parking spaces, right? 3 parking spaces. But we are going to, again, subject to Benchmark's approval, and Tom indicated they're receptive to it, make a space for a sidewalk connection or pedestrian connection as well.
Okay.
And even if that connection wasn't there, the reality is people would walk that way. I mean, we all know that.
Can I ask
Sure.
a question about just that? Tracy, part of, and I'm not speaking for the site plan at this point for the planning board, but part of what we expect to see is a notation on there that this area is going to be reserved for future connection. If there's parking there now, it's going to be extra parking and not necessary. What I would ask is how would you mentioned earlier, someone mentioned earlier that you still intend on making a pedestrian connection. How would you show that on the site plan?
Pat, do we have any thoughts yet on where that would be and how you would show it, or Tom? Striping on the pavement.
Yeah, so,
There's a pointer.
let's see. Okay, so on our site, we'd have to connect it, via this ramp access here. We'd probably have to stripe a crosswalk through the parking lane somehow, and then we'd have to see exactly where we could align the sidewalk connection to have a direct access to the Tops Plaza here. But it would probably be somewhere in this general area, I'm guessing.
And I do want to note, we're not proposing to install a sidewalk on the Tops Plaza. Obviously, we don't own it.
So that could be one of your findings recommendation that the planning board look for that pedestrian connection.
Pedestrian, right.
And we're okay with that.
Sean, is it, would Benchmark permit you to put the sidewalk across their property into their sidewalk? A sidewalk only, so in other words, extend the sidewalk from the parking area, what I think is probably across their property into their parking lot. Do you know if they'd allow you to do that?
I don't think we want to start proposing improvements on their parcel.
Study the way their parking lot layout is and where would be safe connections to,
Yeah.
for them to potentially stripe across their lot. But we had talked simply with them about making a connection, in that, 15-foot strip that happens in this location somewhere along this north border to provide a nice, to handle the grade change there, maybe some steps and that sort of thing is required to be able to make a nice, safe transition there between the properties.
So I would just submit to you that if you want to do something like that and you want us to help kind of facilitate something like that, we're open to help you do that.
And we appreciate that, and I also want to express appreciation that Mr. Howard actually had reached out to Benchmark about the driveway connection as well. And we will make an updated site plan submission. We're waiting till after tonight, Pat, with that notation showing about the cross access for vehicles in the future.
And then I think just one other comment. Can we go back to like the elevation or the perspective, please? That's good. So I do appreciate the resident entrance out towards Main Street. I think that's nicely done and addressed. So you have that connectivity to Main Street with the residents in the building. I do still think the base of the building is weak, like the grounding of it. So it looks like it's on stilts to me, at least this image, where I think some of our guidelines start to, create more of a grounding of the building. I'm not sure if that's, I guess to me, a picture, if there's a water table or something to be able to, like this is defined very nicely, right? With a very nice band at the base. I think you lose that with the amount of storefront you have going down to grade.
Brian?
Brian Sleevar, Community Design. I think in the perspective, you can kind of get a little bit of a better feel of the awning, the canopy that actually is our long horizontal line that I think gives us a little bit more of a base and it gets washed out with all the dark colors and the 2D elevation. So I think if you look above, you can kind of see that. And with our vertical piers where we talked last time where we're trying to make this thing look a little bit taller, I think that breaks it up more than you really kind of see right there. And then two, one thing too, we brought that canopy all the way around to that residential entrance. So when we get the signage, I think we'll take a look at that.
Right. So I do agree, like the first floor itself is broken up nicely from the rest of the building. That separation, to me, it's that bottom like 2 feet of the building looks like it's floating sort of in space.
I would just add to that, I guess, I guess a personal opinion sort of thought with this style, compared to the Cooperage building, much more traditional, turn of the century sort of commercial block building design, where this is a bit more modern. We've got wood materials introduced here that go down to the base. We've got, again, with the canopy style and everything else, I feel like that dark continuous vertical material there at the base, the way it reads with the storefront and lack of having, I guess, another horizontal mull in the storefront at that elevation, at a water table elevation, I kind of feel like it communicates more of a modern feel with this compared to something like that, where I feel like introducing a water table here and maybe that style might push it a little bit more traditional where it doesn't want to be.
Yeah, fair enough. And maybe it's just the glazing color. It's very white right now compared to the black. So I think in the elevation you're losing that groundedness. But if the glazing isn't white like it's shown here, maybe it would read more like you intended to read.
I mean, I anticipate the glazing here is going to be pretty much clear, high transparency, not a lot of tint to it. So it's certainly there's limitations with the renderings here in the elevations where it does read very cloudy, very white, where in truth it's really going to read a lot darker because of that transparency.
Okay, I think that would help if it's not white, yes. That's all for right
Good.
now. Thank you.
That was good.
Thank you.
Mr. Black?
Overall, I'm really pleased with all the changes you've made and the cooperation in what's happening here. I'll just comment a little bit. I also have a concern with the base. And it's not in my purview, but I'm going to comment about it. It's just, you're bringing the window frame right down basically to the sidewalk with the weather we've had recently, which the winter we had last winter, you're going to have snow building up fairly high. And there might be some advantage to trying to have something more solid just to protect at the base, which could create some sort of little more of a band at the bottom level. But otherwise, I think you've really done a nice job on listening to what had been said by the members of this board. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Peter?
I like the way these buildings look. That's the one on Main Street. I've mentioned this before. It's a great looking building. As I'm looking at this, I'm listening to what Tracy's saying about the base in the middle. This is a different style than that. But as I'm looking at the geometry of this, you have a very strong first ground floor, and that overhang makes that the base element. I can see that also. The upper elements, there's a rhythm of gray and black. There's the windows have a rhythm to them. And then that's interrupted by these vertical elements with the brick. And so you kind of, along the base of it, which end up as a rhythm between the horizontal and the vertical coming up through it. With a way to differentiate the two, you could pick one of those two, either the black on the storefront or the red vertical, and give that something different on the base to even further distinguish those two. If you were to put it on the vertical element, it would be something you'd want it to feel like it was standing up, and that would contrast with the black just being flat. Or do the opposite. With the black, where you've got the horizontal overhang above, do something below to make that even a little stronger first floor piece, and then don't do it at the vertical element, at the red. Those are my comments on that. I mean, that's a stylistic thing. I wouldn't impose it, but I think that it's something that would add to it. Those are the comments I have for that. With the other thing I was wondering was the public area in the front. Is there a seating area out front or a picnic area? Could you tell us a little more about that? I don't think it was.
Go back to the site plan. Pat, you want to come back and show where made those changes? Actually, it's on the landscaping plan.
Yeah, it's on the landscape. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
You all
Yeah.
received a copy of the newest landscaping plan today, in addition to the book that was provided you last week.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
so
that,
this,
that addresses some of the standards
Yes.
for site design and public realm.
yeah, so this patio up front along Main Street here has 2 access points to the public sidewalk. And there will be seasonal seating out here for use for customers or residents of the, commercial space on the first floor. Help direct access to the public sidewalk on Main Street, as well as connectivity to the building itself.
That was just one little clarification on that. Okay, that's all the extent of my comments.
I have just a very general question.
Sure.
All the recommendations that were made by this board at the last meeting, the preliminary meeting, and all the comments that are contained in the response letter that you gave, is there anything that you weren't able or not capable of doing that you objected to?
Pat, no, I don't believe so.
I mean, at a cursory glance, it looks like you did satisfy everything that was in there.
Yeah, I believe
Just
we've
wanna make
addressed,
sure that you're okay with that.
I'm quite confident we've addressed everything.
Okay. All right.
And I defer to the planning department, but I think we did.
Go ahead.
May I ask just a point of clarification? When we met last time and we reviewed this and we met with you at the time, you guys had said that the elevator does not go to the patio because it's not required, but tonight I heard you say it does? Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Well, but It does or doesn't now?
So the elevator serves only the finished floors, not the patio on the rooftop?
Right.
Okay.
We also, when we were here on December 13th, and Brian, you can chime in, at that point, we were showing a second projection above the roof line. I believe we've eliminated that, right?
Yeah, we had, well, to answer your question, the building code after 3,000 square feet would require us to have the elevator go up. And previously, we were showing something that was over 3,000, so we had both 2 exits and the elevator. And we've now reduced that down to 750 square feet, which was our original intent. So now we have the 1 stair tower to the plan east, and the elevator is capped at the 3rd floor, or 4th floor, sorry.
You know, that we've found in our, in our portfolio with projects of this size, equal to or even larger, that the patio size there that we're showing is sufficient, and what was shown previously was much too large for what we need for 30 apartments.
I just wanted to make sure this board understood that, so thank you.
Any further questions? I guess we're all set, right? Okay. We're ready to vote.
Thank you.
Dale, can I ask before you vote that we make sure, are there any remaining findings that would be conditions or recommendations to the planning board for conditions?
I don't think so. Pardon me?
Just that pedestrian path that
Yeah. Really the only thing. Yeah. I think you already noted that, didn't you?
And can I want to make note, I don't know if it's in the minutes, that the exterior materials were provided to the board tonight.
Yes.
And photos of example brick. When we're done with it, if you, we'll give that to Rachel, and we'll make that part of the submittal. So what's left in here? I don't.
Okay.
Right, brick in terms of style, not color.
Pardon me?
It's not the exact color, but it's the type of brick.
Same manufacturer, same style, different color.
Yep.
Style.
Okay. We're ready to vote. Can you do a roll call?
A motion?
Oh, yeah. Motion to, anybody want to make a motion to approve? Motion. Second. Okay. Thank you for reminding me.
No worries.
Oh, no, Roche, I forgot. Now we can do roll call.
Duncan Black,
Yes.
Marissa Colucci is not present. Tracy Konheiser-Rui,
Yes.
Dale Giuliani,
Yes.
Pete Talty.
Yes.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Well, we have to approve minutes. Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to tell you that I really appreciate the effort you put into this. We're trying to work this process, and I appreciate the fact you've been patient with us, you've worked with us. I think the outcome is better.
Yep.
And, your efforts contribute to that. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you. We actually really appreciate that comment, and I think this collaboration and the two-step process is working well.
And ditto on behalf of the board.
Thank you.
Okay, so you guys are free and clear. Now, we still have to approve minutes, and we also have to approve the schedule of meetings for next month. If I can find any of this. Did we? Yeah, I thought we did too. Is there anything different from that?
I think that changed by the town board. There's a change in the calendar since they approved it, right?
I don't believe that changing the calendar would affect the DAB calendar, the DAB meeting dates.
Didn't
The
the,
changes were to planning board dates. Since we did the book?
So, no, since the last time they approved it, I believe we added the
Oh.
June meeting.
Yes,
Okay, so we have to approve that.
right.
All right, take a motion on the minutes first. Motion to approve, someone?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Tracy?
Second.
And Mr. Black, second. Can we do roll call?
Duncan Black,
Yes.
Marissa Calucci is not here. Tracy Kongheiser-Ui,
Yes.
Dale Giuliani,
Yes.
Pete Talty.
Yes.
All right, now, since this has been changed slightly, but not tremendously, can we take a vote on the schedule of board meetings in 2024? A motion to approve,
Also move.
and second,
I'll second.
Mr. Black and Tracy. Roll call again?
Duncan Black,
Yes.
Marissa Calucci is not here. Tracy Kongheiser-Ui,
Yes.
Dale Giuliani,
Yes.
Pete Talty.
Yes.
All right.
Can we
unless anybody's
just
got-
clarify the change? You're right, the one that you got in December was before there was, a meeting was added for June because the planning board schedule has added a meeting in July.
Okay.
All right, unless anybody's got anything else that they want to bring up at this point, take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Tally. Second,
I'll second.
Mr. Black. All right, thanks, guys.